Here with more, Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Governor, first, I applaud your efforts. You've been on this show many times. You've tried convoys. You have done everything humanly possible. So your state, with its constitutional right, has put up the razor wire. They take you to court on that. And now they set up a confrontation between your National Guard and federal border troops. Now, I don't think either side of that equation wants to be enemies. They're all on the same side, aren't they?
They are, and as you pointed out, and as Border Patrol Council and Border Patrol members have made clear to Texas and to myself, they want to have nothing to do with regard to tearing down that razor wire or tearing down the barriers that Texas has erected for one simple reason, and that's because they are working. Border Patrol says that what Texas has done to secure the border actually makes their job even easier. The only resistance we're facing is coming from Joe Biden. Know this, Sean, and that is Joe Biden is in violation of federal law that already exists. For one, he is not living up to his duty to deny illegal entry across the border. Instead, he's aiding that illegal entry. The second thing is he's not, once people do cross the border, he is not detaining them as he's required by law. Instead, he's giving mass parole across the country. Because Joe Biden is not enforcing the federal immigration laws, that gives Texas the right, under that Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, to defend ourselves from imminent harm or from an invasion. So Texas has every constitutional right in this case, and I believe when the sun sets on this, Texas will be vindicated and the Constitution will be strengthened.
Yeah. You know, we have relevant U.S. laws. Joe Biden has been aiding and abetting in the law breaking. Joe Biden, I'd even go further. He is violating the laws of this country. He is violating his oath to uphold our Constitution. I could put up on the screen, Title 8 U.S.C. 1324. You know, it prohibits alien smuggling, domestic transportation. You know, it goes into, every harboring illegal immigrants, encouraging or inducing, conspiracy, aiding and abetting. If I did any one of the things that Joe Biden has now institutionalized, I would be in jail, and I doubt that the best lawyers in America could get me off the hook.
Well, fair point, but also you're making another profound point. You listed all those different ways that the Biden administration has these duties and responsibilities. Because they're not just doing that job poorly, but because they have totally abandoned doing that job whatsoever. That is exactly what gives Texas our constitutional right for Texas to be able to act. So by Texas building the barriers that we have, by us taking the action to repel illegal immigration, we're fully authorized because the federal government has ceded or conceded the field of immigration enforcement, and Texas has picked up that duty, and we're the ones in self-enforcement. And let me tell you this amazing number, Sean. If you know where that park is, where Texas now has taken over and we blockaded that park, that is an area where sometimes over the past year, there would be as many as 2 or 3 or more than that 1,000 people coming across the border a day. Yesterday, there were just 6 people crossing the border. All 6 of those people were arrested by Texas law enforcement officers. We have now cracked down and been able to staunch the flow of illegal immigration. Biden should want this replicated across the entire border. That's what Texas is trying to do as we speak.
I got to say one good thing. Your fellow Republican governors have been pretty amazing. They've all come to your defense, every one of them. And they're offering guard troops. They are offering razor wire. They're offering all the help. They understand that you're bearing the brunt of this, but they also understand that their states are also impacted by Joe Biden's open borders. And these people are unvetted, as I keep pointing out. And now Joe Biden's being encouraged to federalize your National Guard, your state guard. What happens if he tries that? Because he did have a deadline of Friday. He hasn't done anything, as usual, but what if that happens?
If he tries to do that, well, first of all, as you know, this is the #1 issue in America. Americans want a secure border. If Joe Biden federalizes our National Guard, that would be the biggest political blunder that he could make. And that's why I think he will not do it. That said, of course, I am prepared in the event that they do make such a blunder to make sure that Texas will be able to continue to secure our border.
I'm not even going to ask you what your plan is because I don't want you to telegraph it to them. But the fact that you have a president that has been aiding and abetting we're now getting close to 10 million Joe Biden unvetted illegal immigrants in this country. I can't think of a bigger danger. You've heard from these former retired FBI, people in the upper echelon of the FBI warning that this is an invasion, warning that a lot of these people are, men that are of age that they could wage war on the country. What are the odds that from these countries that they're coming from that they have radical associations and are setting up, sleeper cells here in America? I would say the odds are 100% myself. I hope I'm wrong.
Well, so Sean, what you just said taps into the words in Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, where it talks about imminent danger. We are in imminent danger because, as you rightfully point out, these are facts. And that is, there are people who are known terrorists who are coming across the border that pose an imminent danger, whether it be in Texas or some other state. Because Biden is not doing his job, that fully authorizes the state of Texas to protect our state and our country from that imminent danger.
Yeah. Governor, I applaud what you're doing. It's unfair that Texas has to go through this. I am glad that your fellow Republican governors have all stepped up and they're offering you assistance in any way they can. That speaks volumes about them. I hope the United States
Sean,
Senate
if
Republicans.
I could, let me just say, me say thank you to my fellow governors. Half of America now is standing against the Biden administration, also more than a majority of all the attorneys general across the country. Biden is not taking on Texas. Biden is taking on the United States of America.
Well said. And you know what? There should be consequences when a president picks and chooses the laws that he's going to enforce, and he doesn't get to break the law just because he doesn't like the law. You've done a great job, Governor, under very difficult circumstances, and everybody's pulling for you down there. Hang in there. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.